fellow Megatennists, and welcome to the podcast. Hello, fellow Megatennists. My name is LaRue, and with me is Neb.
Hey.
Glib.
Yo.
And Spider.
Hello.
Today is the day that we talk about a old game, a dinosaur artifact that you guys voted on and forced us to play. Hope you're happy. This game is Shin Megami Tensei If. Yeah. Before we talk about our thoughts and opinions, I do kind of want to go over the plot of the game. Now, we tried to do a little thing where we played a couple of different endings or routes, but in the end, it kind of was just two of us played Yumi and two of us played Reiko.
Spoilers, too, by the way.
Oh, yes.
The whole thing is spoilers. If you're here and you haven't played this game, die. Or just turn it off and play it and then come back.
After this, after listening to us talk about it, you'll probably decide something else besides actually playing the game. Hopefully this will supplement or even replace playing the game.
Well, even if you do play it, there isn't much to spoil.
Yeah, speaking of the story, there's not a whole lot there. What's the general outline at the beginning?
So, if you're just following the game, essentially the game opens up with you getting asked a couple of questions, and that kind of determines. I don't even know what it determines your stats, I guess.
It determines the list of demons you get. List of guardians or whatever.
You get a little bit of insight about some guy who's talking about the world ending or doing something big, and you end up in this school immediately after the short cutscene, and you just kind of have to talk to people, and you find out that something weird's happening, that you can't leave, or it's like dark, or yes, I'm explaining this badly. He wants to take the ropes.
So the idea is someone has released demons into the school / teleport into the expanse, which is like the demon world, because there's normal dimensions that humans live in, and there's expanse where demons and all sorts of other monsters live. So now your school is there, and it's sort of sealed up, and you got to figure out how to get out. And there are different ways to get out. There are 3 different characters you can pair up with in the beginning, and there's also 1 New Game Plus character.
Yeah, and like I said, two of us played Yumi's route, which is the first character you encounter. More or less the most basic version of the story in terms of the two that are most similar, with Reiko being the other one that's nearly identical in playthrough. The third character you can choose from is Charlie, which none of us chose to play, but Charlie is horrible anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
What makes him horrible?
So when you look at Charlie, you immediately get the sense that he's one of those kids you want to beat up. So even if you weren't a bully in high school, you would want to pick on this kid because he just doesn't look good. You know how you can kind of just weed out people. I don't know. He needs to be cold.
Charlie's cool. LaRue is a hater. That's all I gotta say.
Charlie's a bit of a selfish jerk. I'll say that.
Yeah, and pretty much here on, I guess, is where we're going to start spoiling it. So to summarize, you're just going through different phases or dungeons that are all themed after the 7 deadly sins, more or less, which kind of don't have real bearing on the plot until you there actually really isn't any plot. You can talk to a bunch of NPCs throughout the game, or at least in the very beginning, there's a lot more to talk to, and they're just kind of all there wondering what's going on. Some people want to escape, some people don't care or don't believe that it's actually happening. And you have Dr. Utsuki, who you kind of fight repeatedly, and he is probably the coolest of the NPCs that you encounter, because my favorite spoiler is that he ends up showing up or being hinted at in Nocturne. So he's like one of the only things that gets referenced later on, because If is horrible and should be forgotten.
I never heard of that connection before, but he was my favorite recurring element probably because he got increasingly more ridiculous as the game went by. He starts off as just a dude, and he ends up as a gigantic Gundam.
Yeah, his connection really is the weird phrasing he keeps saying over and over, which is there's no scientific scientific evidence to prove, and then he'll say something. Um, when you start off Nocturne, there's some NPCs you can talk to in the hospital, and one of them will mention both the teacher from Nocturne, Yuko, and she'll the ghost or whatever will also mention a scientist who keeps saying there's no scientific evidence, yada yada yada, and that's the only character in all of SMT that ever says that is Utsuki.
Right, that makes sense.
So as you're playing through the dungeons, there are like the dungeons are pretty laborious. There's a lot of kind of I don't even know how to put it without making it sound negative, but there's a lot going on in the dungeons, are very little that is entertaining. A good part of this game is developed in the sense that it's kind of recycling bits of SMT1 and I believe 2.
Yeah, I saw so in SMT2 there's that you're like the gladiator guy in the very beginning, and there's that trainer who's like, you gotta get stronger so I make more money. I think that guy has the same model as the janitor in this game. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I would even go as far as to say that there's not a whole lot that's new, and except the characters. There's not really that many new like music. A lot of it's kind of recycled as well. They even have a song from Majin Tensei that makes it into SMT If. Forgot the name of the song, but it's in there randomly, and it just kind of goes along with the whole theme of the game, which you could say is rebirth, but I would argue that it's recycling. The general plot is that you're trying to stop Hazama, who's the character in the beginning that crowns himself Demon Emperor. Demon Emperor?
Yeah, I think it's Demon Emperor, something like that.
And you're essentially trying to either stop him if you're one of the good characters, or partnered with one of the good characters. If you're partnered with Charlie, you just want to leave because Charlie's a coward and he deserves to die. And he's too weak to do anything to stop Hazama. And that's kind of the general gist of the game. If you play with Yumi, then all you do is you fight him, you beat him, and then you and Yumi make it back to the real world. If you fight him with Reiko, you learn a little bit more about what's going on with Hazama. You learn essentially he has been bullied. One of the only, aside from Reiko, like the only other person I think was ever really nice to him is the teacher or the nurse, which is why she's one of the only NPCs that doesn't suffer in the game.
Well, I went through and I read some of that dialogue, and first of all, he got rejected by this girl, like publicly or whatever, and that made him really mad. And then he went to go to the nurse as like a weird like mother figure / trying to hit on her type thing, and that was really weird. And so he's got this like incel vibe sort of going.
Yeah, he. I think that Hazama, when I say recycling is like the theme, Hazama to me is just another Nakajima, in the sense that bullied, decides to end the world essentially, except with Nakajima, he summons demons to torture everybody and get his revenge on the bullies and on the girl that gets mad that he rejected. Whereas Hazama is just a loser who tried to hit on someone. They said no. He did. I couldn't really tell if they were trying to say with the nurse that he hit on her as well, or that I thought the implication was more that he just has really strong, a really strong connection to her. I didn't really read it as like he was like hitting on her necessarily. But I did figure that that's probably why she isn't suffering, and she hasn't really encountered demons and whatnot. And she's able to actually do her job throughout the game. Whereas you think that Hazama would want to stop somebody like that.
So does SMT If go after Megami Tensei 1 on the timeline?
No. Well, kind of. It's essentially what if the bombs didn't go off, correct?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
In my
I thought it was
understanding,
based on-
sorry, what were you gonna say?
I thought it was based off of 2, not 1.
It couldn't be after 2 because 2 has the world ended essentially.
I
It's
haven't played 2 yet.
Oh, okay. So at least the manga gives a lot more context. In the manga, it's the time that SMT1 started. So like the demons haven't started to come or show up yet or whatever, but you still have characters like Thorman and what's his name? Goto. And they're big figures. Thorman starts I think the Messiahs, and Goto starts something else.
The Gaians.
And essentially the game is what if the rest of the SMT1 story doesn't happen. So in this version of SMT1 story, essentially Hazama summons demons, creates the program, sends the school to the Makai world, or expands, and then after the events of that, there's only 2 survivors in the manga, which leads into Khan, and that those survivors are Yumi and Nobu, who's the male version of the protagonist. Which also his story is a little more interesting than Tamaki's. To kind of spoil, sorry, go ahead.
Because they have the fiends too, which are Law Hero, Chaos Hero, and Futsuo, I think, right?
Yeah, that's one of the good parts of the game. We could probably just actually start talking about our experiences in the game. What you're referring to as the Guardians are fiend. These ones are kind of like special Guardians or secret Guardians that are essentially fiend encounters. You have a very low percentage chance of encountering them, and really, what happens is I believe you need to have your Guardian gauge full, and you need to die in the full moon. You have a really low chance of encountering any of those characters, the cast from SMT1 essentially, and but you have a higher chance of those people that you could encounter of encountering Pascal, but you need to have a high agility stat to even like have him as a guardian. If you get any of those characters, you can also get Alice as well. They're all game breaking, as in like the game gets significantly easier because of the skills they have. So if you ever want to play the game, I would highly recommend forcing yourself to get one of these Guardians, because then you could actually go through the game pretty easily, even though there's not really a whole lot of story, but you can try to enjoy it for what it is. I did want to ask you guys, what are some of the things that were like high points in terms of your experience with the game, whether it's music, the story, the art, whatever?
I actually really like the rebirth mechanic, where you don't actually die; you just go and start over from the beginning of the dungeon. I don't know. I just like that it wasn't so punishing that you just had to go all the way back and start all over, or go back to your save point, or any of that. Because losing your guardian isn't a really big deal. You can build that up pretty quick.
My favorite part of the game was probably Hazama. I think Hazama was right. I like how, I guess, the taunting, it made like, it was probably the only part in the game that had real atmosphere when he came on the scene.
Yeah, he's the only character that I felt was interesting.
He was the only real character. No one else was an actual character. None of them were developed beyond like 8 lines of dialogue. But yeah, he was kind of neat. He had a cool suit. He was dressed like an admiral or whatever. But for my favorite part, I don't know. This isn't a difficult decision, and there's a lot of stuff that's my favorite. It's just trying to figure out something that I would even bother listing as really good. I don't know. I guess it was neat to get into the first person dungeon crawling stuff again. I haven't played a ton of those games, so I guess that was neat. I haven't done a lot of the first person ones.
Yeah, I think for me the high points weren't even necessarily playing the game as it was trivia. I mean, kind of goes without saying that I like trivia, but I thought that the whole seeing where things are connected or trying to find what things like I guess matter was interesting. And then this is the first time I've ever played it in English. I played it in Japanese a long time ago, and it wasn't good, and I didn't understand what was going on because I was using like a translation book and and just watching someone play it while trying to play it. So I would just like look up videos, and it was just not good. It was not a very good experience. So I came away from the game knowing very little and not really understanding a lot. So this time around, it was cool. Some of the changes were weird, but overall, it was nice to be able to, I guess, just see where things came from. It's like it was kind of like when you go to like Gettysburg or something and you see where everyone died, and you're like, glad that wasn't me. But also, you don't actually have to fully experience it in the sense that I don't know. I don't even know what I was trying to say.
That does raise an interesting point, though, in terms of external resources. What level did everyone else use? Because I tried to play this completely blind, except for the small discussions we had. Just stating stuff like, do we really have to wait an entire moon cycle in Sloth before one of the things moves? Stuff like that. But other than that, I didn't use any FAQs or walkthroughs. What did you guys do?
Definitely used one.
Yeah, that was probably smart.
I used a guide for the fourth dungeon. I think it was Envy, wasn't it? The one with the invisible, the visible. You can't see the walls and stuff. You
Right.
can't see it all.
Yeah, you gotta start making
Darkness.
maps.
Yeah, I
know.
was
Yeah, I
making
did.
that for this. I'm sorry, it was.
Yeah, I started right away using a guide. Basically, first dungeon, because I've never been one to like planning or playing the games using actual skill or tactics. So I just wanted to run through the game as quickly as possible. I think that when it came to like long-term play, you guys probably put more time and effort. And I was just kind of like leisurely strolling, and then randomly I had to like rush through because I wanted to at least beat it.
I tried using the fortune teller and stuff, but it wasn't helpful. Like, I was in the gluttony dungeon. I was like, okay, where the heck is this boss? So I went to the fortune teller, and she just tells me being eaten isn't so bad. Thanks.
Yeah, okay. So I did want to mention that. So that's in the second dungeon. In the second dungeon, for anyone who doesn't know, the boss is Orcus, who's supposed to be Horcus. He's the like weird reptile guy with the crown. But he's called Orcus, so it's kind of confusing. So when I first saw that little scene, there's a scene of him eating all that food, and then I heard there's like a shrink ray you can get. I was like, oh, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the shrink stuff in the food, and he's going to eat that and be small, and then we'll fight him. And I was very unaware of the fact that it was going to turn into a Vor situation where you get thrown into his gut and have a whole extra little dungeon there. So that was actually kind of cool. I wasn't expecting that.
That's actually one of the nicest scenes, too, with the animation and the little chefs and stuff and the little comedy.
Yeah, that was funny. They're putting together a little dish for him.
I also like the fusion room. That one was also a really nice little area.
Yeah, actually, I think that's where I heard the Majin Tensei song. I'm like trying to look it up because it's like in the back of my brain that I recognize it from it. That's actually one of the high points for me. Is I really like Tsukasa Masuko's music. So even though a lot of it was just kind of repeats from the other games, I just like listening to it. So to be able to play a game and listen to the music again, and then kind of be like, oh, where is this? Like, what part of SMT 1 or 2 is this song from? That was cool because I would prefer if Tsukasa Masuko came back to SMT at some point.
Well, it might be washed up. You don't know. Maybe he can't make those beats anymore.
We'll see, because he's the one that's doing the 13th month visual novel. So,
Lots to see.
So that being said, those are all the accolades. So what are some of the criticisms?
This is that time to talk about that dungeon now.
Yes.
All right. Now, let's talk about the worst part of the entire game. It's
rest of the
composed
game.
of about 16 to 20% of the game. It's called Sloth. It's the third dungeon in the game you reach. If you're playing, is that on all the routes except for Akira?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're there no matter what, unless you do Akira. For anyone who is unaware, this dungeon is like a mine theme, and the bad guy says something about how like kids are slacking off and they're hard workers like him, so he's going to teach them how to stop being lazy, and they have to slave away in these mines. So as you're crawling around the dungeon, you'll notice that your classmates are in these tunnels, and you have to wait a full moon cycle for each tunnel to be dug one block. And I believe they go simultaneously, but it's a long time before you can get to the end of the dungeon, because you have to wait there for a while to get to the next, I guess the ring is in there, the thing that lets you move on.
Yeah, the ring. It's buried somewhere.
It is one of the only times I've ever seen a game that forces you to grind, and not even just to obtain experience or equipment or anything. It just sets up a timer, and it's like, all right, just go run around in circles for a while.
Yeah, and I just didn't understand its implementation. It's to me, I've never felt that I was actually being punished in a game. Like, I never felt like the game was purposely trying to make me not have fun, and this is what that dungeon was like.
It was a chore.
And then reading that the like PS1 remake or re-release or whatever does it so it's twice as fast, and you only have to wait half a moon cycle instead of a full moon cycle, made me mad for some reason, because it's a chore and it's not fun. It's that superficial lengthening of the game to beef it up, because I think that without this like laborious thing, the game would be a lot shorter.
Yes.
Not like the next dungeon either, where you need to think about what you're doing. You just mindlessly walk around.
Yeah. All the other ones have actual puzzles where you might get punished for taking a wrong turn and get sent back and lose some progress. But you can make a map, you can mark that and say, I'm not going to do that again. There's no way, unless you have a time machine, there's no way to avoid it.
I mentioned that it's simultaneous, but I'm not really sure. Because when I was doing it, it felt like I did like 10 different cycles. Not even 10, like 12. Because I would go back and check, and like one dude wouldn't move, and the other guy would move. I can't tell if that's a problem with the program or not, but I know I had that problem a few times. And it took me like 10 hours to do it, at least. That's like a third of my
it could have been a case where like sets of them are simultaneous, because I feel like there were definitely times where I would check a section and all of them got dug out by one, but there were definitely times where some felt like they hadn't moved at all.
Some of them have help, don't they? Because they would ask me to dig for some people.
Yes, yeah, those people could mess up the cycle too. They might be waiting for a while if you don't go get them immediately.
The only thing about this dungeon that's kind of interesting is that in the two versions that we played, you get the Ring of Tolerance, I believe, and Charlie's version, you get the Ring of Gentleness. And I don't know what it pertains to, because tolerance leads to the world of envy, and gentleness leads to the world of wrath. And
opposites, I suppose?
Yeah, they're kind of opposites, gentleness and wrath.
But tolerance and envy being opposite, I would...
Yeah, I think maybe tolerance is maybe not an exact translation of what they're getting at. But it's like envy is, you're obsessing about someone or something and you want it. And then tolerance is sort of an idea of letting something be and not doing that. But there's probably another word that fits it better. Maybe the word in Japanese doesn't map correctly to the emotion that they're trying to outline.
Yeah, that could be it. The other big thing that was interesting overall is that although that there's all these deadly sin themes, there's only 5 deadly sins in this game.
Which ones are they missing again?
Lust. I don't know. I think Lust and
That kind of
See.
gets covered in Envy a little bit.
Yeah, sort of. They're sort of both. They double up on that because
that's
your
true.
partner gets thirsty and runs
Very
away.
thirsty.
I hated that dungeon for sure. That was so bad. That was just so bad.
Yeah, so for me, the way the flow of the game was like 1 and 2, Dungeon 1 and 2, I was like, all right, this is neat. And 3 just was a screeching halt. And 4 started to be fun. Making the maps was kind of fun, but then once you're like 5 floors up, you're like, all right, I want to move on. And then the 5th dungeon was like a slog.
It would have been fine, but like without your partner, you have no healer. I mean, you do have a healer because you have the demons and stuff, but like she was my main healer. Like I had Recon on her, I had Meteorama on her. It's just like my whole thing was.
Damn, really?
Yeah, it was.
Wow, my person only had Dia the whole game.
How?
Yeah.
That's a big L.
She eventually got Samare Karm. I don't know how to pronounce it. Super Rekarm.
Did you have Jellyman the entire time?
No, I don't know what her latest Guardians were, but it was mostly like Hindu type people, I think.
I had
Weird.
the scale.
Like, not Yaksha or whatever, but yeah. Yeah, I played this game blind, and she had Dia the entire game, and a couple of magic spells, like level 1. She was getting new Guardians, so I don't know what the problem was, but...
Do you love her magic? I think that's it.
Yeah, no, her magic was like 30 some at the end of the game. 35-ish.
I did. I had like 22 spells at the end of the game. I think something like that. I mean, I didn't beat it.
Yeah, it must have had to do with the questions at the beginning or something. I don't know.
I think that just affects the main character.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, I don't know what was going on because I had to rely on demons for healing mostly.
I think I just had media.
Yeah, I barely ever had any media people. It was kind of... Speaking of which, the combat is... it doesn't scale great, right? The idea of these like 6v12 fights just takes
forever,
so long. Especially when you get those packs of like Muspel, whatever his name is. He's like a fire demon guy, and like Ifrit. They'll just cast, Miragion, AoE fire. They'll hit every person in your party. So it could be up to 6 times, and there might be 4 or 6 of them. So you're going to sit there and read 24 to 36 messages that are like, this person took damage. This person took damage.
Yeah, if I
pulling my hair
saw
out.
more than 4, I would leave.
You think that's bad? When I was fighting the final boss, every turn was a miss, man. I had like at least 12 attacks per turn. Every attack was a miss every turn for a good 20 turns. I was doing 0 damage. It was not fun.
That's nightmarish. Yeah, I didn't actually, for clarity, just so we can get everything out of there, I did not finish the final boss either. I arrived at level 50, I think. And that is not a sufficient level to beat the boss. I will say that, at least for me. My demons were not average level 50 either, but he destroyed my entire team. And
I was fine, like level 40 something. But my problem was that I had no Secunda or no Sukakaja or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So, like, even before he debuffed me, I was fine. I mean, I was missing a lot. But after that, I had no chance at all. I just missed every attack.
Yeah, I sort of got stuck without good debuffs, too.
Well, I did it, but because I had Pascal. And Pascal, like, knows almost everything.
Yeah, you cheated.
Grinding and cheating are 2 different things. And
Why
also...
not both?
Why not both? Also, I was wrong. There's 6 of the 7 deadly sins. Because Wrath is Charlie, and I forgot about Charlie, because he's Charlie. But I think I was able to beat it. It was not fun because I did have to grind. I think I was like 60 or so. But I was using an emulator and I sped up the gameplay. And so to me, like, grinding could be kind of relaxing. Even in this game.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I never thought to use that. The only emulator trick I use was save states, which, by the way,
Oh,
absolutely crucial in this game because there's one save point every dungeon, and these
Not even
dungeons can
that.
be like 9 floors.
There's like
yeah,
maybe one every other dungeon. Not even some
Yeah,
of
I
them don't even
guess.
have them. Like it's not even funny.
yeah. I would not recommend playing it the way you're supposed to because I would never play this game.
Sit down for 6 hours.
Yeah, I played it at normal speed, blind. Please do not do what I did.
This game is almost unbeatable on the original console, man. I'm just not doing it.
You have to leave it on overnight. Back in the day, when we had to be Battletoads, we would leave it on overnight and hope that it didn't power didn't go out or it didn't brick the console or whatever.
See, I would do that too, but my mom would just turn off the console when she saw that it was on and we were sleeping, so it would ruin everything. Ugh.
There was actually Nintendo 64. There was this cartridge you had to replace when you got certain games because the old cartridge, the graphics card, I think it was, or something, you had to replace it and it would run newer games anyways. So when I replaced that in some of the games, it would lose the ability to save without a memory card.
Oof.
So I had to leave the console on if I wanted to beat the game.
Ugh.
Yep, that's some old analog problems.
So luckily we had
that.
Luckily, I think we all had save states. And was I the only one that beat the game, by the way?
Yes.
I got close.
I ran out of time. I was playing it up until just a couple hours before this recording, and I was just like, if I'm going to beat this, I'm going to spend several hours grinding just to get to a level where I can fuse up demons to kill this guy. And it's like, I don't feel like it. I feel like it should have scaled better so that wasn't required. You weren't required to spend several hours getting to that point, but
yeah. I mean, in terms of that sense of accomplishment when you beat a game, this didn't really have that for me. Mostly because I used a guide. I think that took away a lot. But also because the game did not feel fun at any point in time. Was I ever kind of smiling and playing, or nothing made me laugh when I was reading the dialogue? It was just kind of just I was just looking at the game, and it felt like work. And it sucks to say that because I try to enjoy all of the SMT games or all the Megaten games in general, but this time around it was just not good.
Yeah, around Dungeon 3, it definitely felt like a chore. The first two, I was like, this is cool. This is a neat little cute thing. And Holy Ghost was there, he's the best. And then it just, man.
That just kills the momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
if it wasn't for that, I probably would have enjoyed the game a lot more, because after that, I was just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. And then I think we'd even have a real hard deadline. I think when we initially decided to do the SPOILERCAST, I said something like early January. And here we are, towards the end of January. And I beat it a week, not even a week ago. And I tried to, I wanted to talk about this. So we talked about there's 3 characters you can recruit as a partner in the beginning. Yumi being the first person you talk to, the first person you could actually see or whatever. Reiko being after that, and I don't actually know where you find Charlie.
He's on the first floor.
Or is he top floor? Oh, I thought he was top floor.
Maybe he's on top floor. He's on one of the extremes of the floors, but he's just hanging out there. If you go in one of the rooms, he's there. With Reiko, you have to do stuff, I think, because when I went in the room originally, she wasn't there. And then I just went around doing shit.
Twice?
Yeah, I don't remember what happened, but I just kept wandering until finally she was like, oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah, but there's those 3. And then if you beat the game, you could recruit the other guy. His name is Akira. And this is probably one of those things where this part of the game it's unlike the rest of the game, because essentially instead of going through the dungeons, the 7 deadly sins or whatever you want to call it, instead you're going through a maze to get to a tower, to climb to the top of the tower to fight Hazama. And along the way, Akira gets assaulted by Amon. We just talked about this. Amon. And he fuses with Amon and becomes Devilman, and it's
Actually become real ass Devilman, or just like parody?
He's fused. The design isn't necessarily reminiscent of Devilman at all, I would say, but supposedly this portion of the game is very similar to one of the Devilman spin-off manga. There's so many that I was trying to read through to find which one it was, and I could not find it. There's a lot of Devilman, it turns out. But it's not fun either. With spoilers, you're not going to have fun playing as Akira or playing with him, because essentially he just wants to dethrone Hazama, because Hazama dethroned him or dethroned Amon. Basically, Hazama found out that going to the top of the tower and defeating everybody would then give him enough power to claim domain over everything. And that kind of
Well, that sounds like sort of a weird, almost Easter eggy type route. I don't know if there are people who worked on both of those projects or what, like, or if they just absolutely love Devilman so much that they were like, we have to pay homage.
SMT 1 is pretty Devilman too.
Yes, I would wager that they just wanted to make another reference to Devilman because it's so similar, even thematically, the way that Akira talks, it's so Devilmanish, that I was kind of like thrown off, because I know that Kaneko has some people will say that he kind of just copies a lot of things. That's like in like the most layman of terms, that he just kind of copies things. This felt so unoriginal or unthoughtful that I just was like, I don't even want to finish it. So I didn't finish it. I don't even know what happens after you start the maze. I got to the maze and I didn't even get to the tower yet. So no one will ever know what happens next, because nothing is on the wiki about what happens after.
What's that saying? Imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery.
That's true.
Yes, which is exactly why there's that one stand in JoJo that does the Fist of the North Star 1,000 punch thing, except he doesn't doesn't do the sound that Bruce Lee does. He does, like, he says Adi or something, or Adia, I don't know.
A few things do that.
He tries to do like a cooler version of it, but it's not as cool.
It's a lot less cool. I randomly saw it on Tumblr or Twitter, and I was like, oh, I didn't know they did this.
I think you're thinking of Star Platinum, and it says Aura. But there is one that says Ari too, but it's not the same thing.
I mean, I don't know. Point is... Sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of Kaneko, they had that interview about the Sloth Dungeon too.
Can you explain that? I actually didn't think to...
I'll have to do it off the top of my head. But
yes,
they were talking about how awful the dungeon was, actually. They talked about how hard it was to get through, and I think they were a little worried about how it'd be received. So there was that. But they ended up shipping it out anyways. They only had, half a year to finish this?
Yeah, and it kind of feels like like the game's pacing, the game's design, and everything feels like they pushed it out as like without a whole lot of review, which marks it down a lot of pegs for me.
Feels like a beta, definitely.
But sorry, go ahead.
Also, in that interview, they talk about how why they implemented the EXP cap. You know, where you get in a certain area, you get to a certain level, and you start getting less and less EXP. It's because when Kaneko got on board, he broke the game by grinding so much.
I
think it was Megami Tensei 2.
I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. That's kind of ironic, though, right? Because at some point you need to grind to even get to certain points. But then
yeah, I guess they made that up with the slot dungeon.
Um, I did
It's
want to talk.
nightmarish.
I did want to talk about some of the additional things or the supplemental things, which really is only just the mangas, SMT If, Gakuen, something something, and SMT Con. How many of you guys have like ever read Con? To be honest,
Nope. I just actually recently read the Maiken X manga, which has nothing to do with this, but I will say that.
that one's a pretty good one.
Yeah,
Is it in
cool.
English?
Anyway, yeah.
I gotta read that then.
Con's whole thing is that I guess partway through Tokyo Pop flopped or something, or they went out of business, or they for whatever reason they canceled the translation. So I believe it only exists in 3 out of the 9 mangas being translated. But it was finished in its entirety in French and also in Japanese. But it basically continues the story. So it continues from Yumi and Nobu survive. Nobu being the protagonist. There's some things that kind of change. Where one of the biggest things is that Reiko doesn't go to the school, or she wasn't part of the school when the whole incident happened, which is like kind of a big deal because all the Order of Messiah people want to find the survivors of the school's incident to use them for whatever. So Thorman's kind of gunning to capture people, and the first person he kind of targets is Yumi, which triggers like the events of Khan. It's super interesting because the art is so far removed from what you would expect. It goes even from the first manga to the second one, the style is already kind of changing. But by the time it gets to the Khan, it's like hair metal ish looking Nobu who's supposed to be 18 or something, but he looks like he looks ridiculous, but it's like ridiculous in all the best ways. Basically, the story kicks off with him trying to stop Thorman from picking up Yumi, but then crazy stuff happens. They try to kidnap Nobu as well. Nobu's mom dies, and they frame Nobu for it. So he's on the run. He runs into the pixie that he recruited from the game, except now she's like a human looking person. It's really
That's weird.
It's weird, but it's good.
I've seen a panel of that pixie with the tiny head and the big bodysuit.
That's like the proportions of it for everybody, essentially. And no one looks like them. Like you would not know who they are, except for the fact that they say their names. Because Reiko looks nothing like how she does. Yumi, she kind of looks like her character design, except her hair is a lot longer. But the personalities are like shifted a lot. For whatever reason, Reiko is kind of like in love with the protagonist and very willing to trust him, even though she thinks that he murdered his mom and everything. She doesn't hate him until she finds out that he's the reason why Hazama's gone. Then the manga does this weird thing where there's like a 30-year jump. And for some reason Nobu and the Pixie aren't really aged, but it's like the end of the world. It's really dumb because that's the part that feels recycled to me. It's that whole time jump thing. SMT 9 does that as well. There's like a 30-year jump or whatever. And SMT 1 does that with the jump so I guess that's why the theme of SMT If to me is recycling. I would highly recommend reading the manga. It's only 9 thingies long. You just have to know French or know Japanese.
It looks pretty cool. It's kind of funny though, because like I see Akira, I think it is, on the cover, volume 2, I think it is, and he reminds me of the anime Akira. And I like the tagline too. It says, "Not since Battle Royale has a manga been so extreme."
It do be like that.
And I'm telling you, Persona Battle Royale is coming, man. It's coming. It's on the way.
Maybe.
Wait. Oh, the guy in the second volume, that's Nobu.
It is?
Yes, he gets something.
He has a headband on now. It looks like Akira.
I guess the artist really liked Akira.
I'm so sure that's Nobu. Let me look it up now. Yeah, but I think that part of why I like the Con manga so much is that the character for Nobu is really carved out in a way that's interesting, and his arc is kind of cool. goes from this reluctant hero to this like grungy, dirty hobo guy that saves the world. And then you have that contrast between him and the female version, Tamaki, who you know from appearing in the Persona games later on. And she's lame by comparison, I think, because she marries that creepy guy and she doesn't look as swole. So there's also that. There's also a novelization of If, but I don't know much about it. I don't even know if it's actually one of those ones like the other novelizations where they don't actually follow the story; they just kind of supplement the story. But it exists, and in that, I believe it's a female character named Jin or something like Jin, and not Tamaki or Nobu as the main character. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys have read the SMT If novel.
Yeah, I missed that one.
But yeah. I guess my last question about this is: would you guys recommend this game? And if you would, why? And if you wouldn't, why not? We'll start with Glib because I feel like Glib will have an interesting thing to say.
I want to say no, but I feel like I wouldn't stop somebody from playing it. I mean, it's bad, but it's not that bad, I guess. But there's so many things about this game that kind of make me mad. Like in the beginning, like the game almost tricks you into picking Yumi. Like when I picked her, it was an accident. Like I just wanted to look around the school. I didn't know it was like for the whole game. I wanted to do Charlie Route. That was I'm excited about that still. And it's just like I feel like this whole game just feels like a bait for String's journey. Like this feels like a lot of missed opportunity in this whole game. So I mean, it's not terrible, but if you really want to play a game that's like SMT Dungeon Crawler, I mean, it's like it has more quality of life than 1 and 2, but not really interesting.
All right. What about you, Spider? Would you recommend it?
It depends. I mean, it's rough, especially with the Sloth Dungeon. My motivation to play just went down the drain completely. But there's some high points, like Hazama's character, especially when you're going through the routes and you notice like all these things, like why doesn't he transport the teacher with everybody else and stuff like that, and that gets explaining in Reiko's route a little bit. You get to his realm and all that, and you hear his side of the stories, well, his memories. And that's a nice explanation for stuff, I guess. But overall, it's just not too fun to play. But it's nice seeing all the references in other in other games, like we mentioned in the beginning, the Otsuki one.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that I think that probably isn't a reference, but like in SMT4, you talk to some of the demons in Naraku, and they'll tell you to dig. That really reminded me of the Sloth Dungeon. So there's some fun stuff. But other than that, no. Especially not as a first game, absolutely not. But if you've played through a lot of games and you want to see the history and references, then yeah, go for it.
That leaves you, Neb. What do you think?
All right. So there are 3 potential scenarios in which you could ever recommend this game. The first is to the completionist. But this doesn't matter because the completionist either has played this game or is going to, regardless of what you say. Because they absolutely feel the need to play every single game in the franchise. So that's number 1, but it doesn't really matter. Number 2 is sort of like what Spider was saying, the person who is interested in the history, is interested from the sort of academic perspective, seeing how the games have changed over time. You could definitely get some value out of it that way. And then the third type of person is the type of individual who thinks they're cool because they play really old games. They go on a forum and they're like, by the way, have you played Shin Megami Tensei If? I have. So that guy is probably, if you know anyone like that, recommend this to them. They would love it.
Anybody that likes digging holes too.
Yes, if you love running around the mine for 8 hours. No, yeah, to the average, there's just no one else that it really applies to. Like, you have to be nostalgic for these games to like them, but you'd also have to be like 35 to be nostalgic for them. You know?
Yeah.
You're an old person. Go play a different game.
But even so, like, a few of us are in the older category for sure. And me being someone who's played, I got into RPGs a lot later, but I've been playing games since, 5, 6, playing Atari and whatever, right? I would say that I can, in general, put myself in the context of the release of the game pretty easily. So,
can you imagine a 4-year-old trying to untangle this fucking game?
I mean, when I was 4, I was playing like, I don't even know. Let's see, like Adventure and stuff. I think it was literally just called Adventure.
Yeah, the one with the key. Your little dot, you grab a key and shit.
Yeah. I and obviously I don't remember, but I do know that I played those old games when. Yeah, but the point is, like, if I'm playing an old game, I think that it's kind of a skill that comes with, like, being someone who's of generations. Sometimes it's easier to have, okay, I'm going to play SMT 1 and I'm going to kind of consider the game in the lens of someone from, what is that, 1987 or 1988. I'm going to just try to enjoy it as if, this is the peak of 1988, like, gameplay.
Yeah.
And usually I can do that. With If, like, it just I think because I enjoyed the manga so much, I was even more let down. My first playthrough, I did not even know about Khan or anything. I just, very dumb playthrough, and I got so little out of it. But this time around, I was like, okay, I know a lot about SMT. I just know my stuff. And then when I tried playing it, it just felt so much like work. It felt like I was being punished. And I'm like, I guess that's the point, because their dungeons are all based around sins. And either I'm a very sinful person and that's why I'm suffering so bad, or maybe because I'm such a good person, all of the dungeons are hitting me really hard because they don't apply to me. Regardless, the game is so unfun to me that, yes, I would say that unless you're a completionist or you're some sort of elitist guy who just can't wait to say that you've played all the games, don't play this game. Read it on Wikipedia.
Punishment either, like in Strange Journey, where it's just really difficult. It's just not fun.
Yes, yeah. I never felt super challenged in the game, really, except for the last encounter. But even then, it was like a number thing. It wasn't like I planned a strategy poorly. It's like, oh, this move just kills my entire team in one hit. I need bigger numbers.
Yeah, it felt like superficial padding, like, just, I'm gonna make this game last longer difficulty, not actual difficulty.
Yeah.
So the word I would use is laborious. I like using it because it sounds good, but also because it describes the game very well. It's just making a lot of, like, putting a lot of time and effort into it with very little payout. Because there's so little story to it, you can't really get a lot out of it unless you know the rest of the game or the rest of the material. So for me to know the manga makes the story better, or for me to know what happens to Tamaki after makes the story better.
Yeah.
But really, when there's only one character that has any real development, it's hard to get into it. And when so much of the game's core assets are just recycled from previous games and not in a meaningful way or purposeful way, it just kind of takes away from the game also. So I actually wouldn't recommend it, period. If you're a completionist, then you probably shouldn't listen to this podcast because you're going to get triggered.
Exactly.
And if you're someone who wants to know it for historical value, that's what listening to the podcast is for. So,
yep, there you go.
So do that.
I missed something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We didn't do Shinji or Charlie's route.
Yeah, we'll make another episode just for those, right?
No.
So
Shin Megami Tensei F 0 out of 10. Anything else we have, or do you want to go to questions?
I mean, we could. If it's the worst mainline.
Okay, I don't even want to, like, do this, like, game of rating them all, but I would say that it's one of the worst of the franchise. And I've played basically all of them. I haven't played Gaiten yet, so I don't know if that's horrible. And some of them a lot of them have that same hurdle of me playing it without knowing exactly what's going on. So I can't really speak, like, honestly about the quality of the game. but definitely this is the worst English game I've played.
I agree.
But yes, let's just get into questions. If you guys want to know about Charlie, just know he sucks and everyone hates him. And if I met him in real life, I'd kill him.
Nice. That's very well reasoned. All right. We got questions
All
here.
right, then.
If you want to ask a question for us, follow Did You Know Tensei on Facebook and look for the posts. There will be posts, and in the comments you write a question, and we'll read them probably, unless they're bad. All right, first question from Sean McCoy. You ever think we're get an SMT 5 release date?
Does it affect that she a thought?
I think we'll never, ever get a release date for SMT 5. What do you guys think?
I don't know. We can just speculate about the date, but I'm thinking 2021, and I think we're going to get a worldwide release thanks to Sega's new management.
Like simultaneously, or?
Yeah, simultaneous.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that sounds about right to me. I would say we're going to probably get either another teaser or maybe a full trailer this year, and either 2020 at the earliest, which is very unlikely, or 2021, which is the preferred one, because it means that they're actually trying to use the engine more or to its full potential, because they keep talking about how amazed they are by it. So
I definitely think that'll come out 2021, but I don't know if we'll what did Gene say again? What did she say? Dang.
The simultaneous release. Sega did a press release about it.
I don't know if we'll get that, because like every other game we have so far, even Persona 5, they didn't get a release either. I mean, like a simultaneous release. I think we'll maybe get like
Sega's press release came after that.
Oh, okay.
And it's also, they confirmed that Catherine isn't getting one either and all that.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, I guess the real tell, or the real evidence we'll know, or that will help us determine if SMT5 will follow that route, would be what they do with Project Fantasy, RE Fantasy, because that's basically the next big release that's going to come, and that we can know that's going to come in the foreseeable future. If they announce that for the simultaneous / international release, then I think it would be safe to say that SMT5 would do that as well.
Well, I was going to say a year, but I guess that makes sense now. Okay.
All right. Next question. Franco Espinoza writes in asking, do you think we should rework the whole Law Chaos spectrum or abandon it a la Nocturne?
I don't think that the system Nocturne uses, the reasons, is that much different than the regular alignments, to be honest. I don't really see the deal with that.
And I've always thought the alignments are kind of bad in general. Because in general, it's chaos bad, law good, neutral you don't have an opinion, or that's how I kind of read it as. It doesn't follow D&D alignments closely enough for my taste, where bad and good aren't necessarily the defining characteristics, but they're part of the scale. So you could be chaotic, but you could also be chaotic good.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, especially in these games, the reason chaos is so unlikable is because, like, chaos, they don't, like, because they're rebelling against everything, including social norms, they're just dickheads all the time.
Yeah, that's
awful. People are like, they're either like moderate and normal, or like very polite, and it's like it's hard to like dislike polite people unless they're being like uppity or like annoying, and then it's really easy to dislike characters who are just like, hey, fuck you, for like no reason. It's like, this was not provoked for any reason. You're just being mean or like a jerk or whatever for the sake of portraying chaos.
I rather like the reps for Strange Journey. They kind of mellow that out a bit.
Yeah, because she's a jerk too.
But she starts off that way, but she kind of, I feel like there's definitely a little bit of an arc there where she goes from generic, like, pompous law person to somewhat more characterized just person. And same thing with Jimenez. He's like, I'm just here for a paycheck. And then he's like, actually, I have a pet dog, and I'm not gonna spoil Strange Journey.
Yeah, let's not get into that. Anyway, let's move on. We answered that one pretty well. Let's keep it into SMT. Why did they use Zombie Masakado design in DX2? That's from Pedro Alaminos.
Because the other design sucks. I think that's why.
That's like the robe one, right? Where he has like paint all over him and stuff.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to be a Kabuki warrior or something.
I rather like that one, actually. I don't like the SMT4 one, though.
Yeah, that's
the lava.
The rock monster. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. But I didn't know that was supposed to be like a samurai. I was like, what the hell is this thing? Yeah, I think the design they use is cool in DX2. I don't remember which game it's from or whatever, but he's in full plate armor. He's totally bald and has a huge mullet.
I'm assuming they pick that one to fit the undead theme.
Yeah, so that's probably why they chose it, is because they also chose two very, very obscure and old undead creatures, Bodyconian and Maneater. Maneater, who appears in If. The connection.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of take it back. Now that I'm looking at him again, I kind of like both designs that are Kaneko, it's just the other one's horrible and should burn. Actually, we should just forget it existed.
If I had to pick one to be in my party, I would totally pick the one who looks like he's from the heavy metal animation rather than the Japanese looking one. All right, moving on. I don't like this question, but we'll do it. Ken Zaya Cruzado asks, the best SMT question mark?
Not if.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Sorry, I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah, you got me. Does anyone have any incredible insights into this question? Or
we already went over what our favorites were, and it's probably going to be everyone's best.
Yeah.
Actually, no, because my favorite is Strange Journey, but the best is something else.
Devil Children?
No. Actually, hey, translator Tom agrees with me that at least one of them was really good. So, and he's
I wasn't even joking. I thought that's what you were going to say.
No, actually, Jack Bros. Even though when I streamed it, I was really bad. I'm actually good at it, except when people are watching.
Yeah, I believe that.
The synchronicity was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Once again, Luru was wrong because Strange Journey is the best Megaten.
Once again, I wish death upon Glib.
Me too. All right. This is sort of another repeat. We're not going to actually address this, but someone asked, Devin Hutt asked, favorite, least favorite SMT games spinoffs. We listed our favorites on the first episode of this podcast.
We could do least favorites, though, actually.
Yeah, we could do least favorites.
On 1, 2, 3, everyone say If.
Okay.
If. Oh.
Desu. Every time it's Desu. I hate Desu. That game is terrible. I hate it. I hate playing it.
Which one?
First one.
Wow, you're
really
bad.
I hate the first
I didn't like
Desu.
it either.
I cannot stand it.
You like 2 more than 1?
I have not played 2 because I hate 1.
You might like 2 more, actually, if you're someone who doesn't like 1. Because 1 is good, and 2 is not as good. So if you don't like 1, then you'll like 2.
Is that true?
Yeah, if you're bad at life. I also didn't love Desu either. I don't hate it with a passion, but it's like, I don't know. It didn't click with me. I don't know if I just wasn't in the mood for the strategy stuff or the combat being kind of weird. I don't know.
I had fun with it mechanically. I just didn't really like a lot of the characters in either game.
Yeah, that also put me off. The characters were designed really weird and annoying. They're all very annoying, and they talked a lot.
This is true.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Which was your first SMT game by DJ Sora-kun? I think we talked about this in the first episode as well.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Go
Go watch the first 10 minutes of the first episode. We do all of this.
Pause this, go there, and then come back, and then you'll know.
Well, I won't mind repeating it again, I suppose.
Sure.
Mine was Digital Devil Saga.
Right.
That's it. Move next question.
Okay.
Next one, Ethan Moody asks, have you played any of the last Bible games? If so, which has been your favorite so far? I have not, so none of them.
I haven't got that far yet.
I have played all of them. Which has been your favorite so far? Okay, I think my personal favorite, even though it's not necessarily the best, is Another Bible, which is nothing like the other games, and then it's not really connected to them. It plays like an SRPG, and it's just cartoony, and you can beat it in like 10 to 15 hours. Well, they're all very short, but that's the shortest one. Has the worst art style too, by the way. I actually want to use that art style as a thumbnail for a video we do. Maybe we should all play Another Bible in the future spoiler cast because it's fun. It's really fun and simple. In that game, you're basically some guy with your sister, I believe, and you're trying to stop the Bible.
Stop the Bible.
It's
the Bible, huh?
I want to say. I mean, this is a huge spoiler, but it doesn't really matter, I guess.
No. Let's just skip it.
Okay. Point is, play that game, but in terms of like the power rankings, the first game is the worst. It's not as like fully fledged or fully thought out. I really hate the recruitment system because you can't consistently, reliably recruit someone. It's always different, and I don't know what the defining stat is because I've tried luck, I've tried intelligence, and none seem to really be the stat that recruit people. It's just random. You can talk to the same exact demon 3 different times and pick the same thing each time, and sometimes it'll recruit you or they'll join you, or sometimes they'll just fight you and whatever. It's never consistent. And then on top of that, the story is the worst. It's really poorly written. It's a Game Boy game, so you gotta like be a little lenient, but the other games are more fleshed out. This one, I would pass if you're gonna try to play them. Definitely start with the third one or the second one. Third one is a SNES game, which was recently translated in English last year. The
best one.
They're all connected, but they're not exactly. You don't have to play them in order because they're not connected via timeline. They just all take place in the same place. The last of the games that's in that franchise that I can mention is Last Bible Special, which is completely different. It's kind of like a retelling of the first game, but using SMT 1 style, so it's first person dungeon crawling. It's really good and interesting, and I believe that's the project that translator Tom is working on right now, and I think he just released a tweet saying he's 60% done with the translation or with the dialogue at least. So we'll probably have that by the end of like June or July, and it's also good.
All right, so more news on Last Bible in the future.
I didn't get to go yet. Hello?
You haven't played Last Bible. Shut up.
Hello, I have. I mean, I didn't beat it, but I played it.
All right. Which one's your favorite then? Since you played all of them and you're an expert.
I've only played 1 and 3. I didn't beat them. I didn't get that far. But I guess my favorite is 1 because I like the graphics more.
Die. Glib, stop. Stop having a wrong outlook on life. I bet. Never mind.
Speaking of outlooks on life, Javier Hernandez Sanchez asks, New Year's resolutions, ? No. How about you?
I don't celebrate holidays.
There you go. Anyone else?
I don't.
All of mine are embarrassing.
Oh yes, I actually want to hear yours, Glib. Please tell me one of yours.
That's a hard no, my guy.
Okay, this is the last episode of what Glib's going to be on. Everyone type F in the chat. I don't know. Actually, it doesn't work, huh? But Glib's gone. He won't share the only thing I've ever asked him to share. So he's dead.
Rest in peace.
And I don't really do resolutions. I do kind of have like goals that I'll set for myself. So it's not necessarily the same thing, but I don't set them specifically because it's New Year's. The current goals I have is to actually finish sketchbooks. So I've been drawing almost every day, which is new, I guess. And my other goal is to just be overall happier, which is not a very good or easy or not very specific. So it's easy to say that I followed through on it.
It's also sort of conflicting with our latest game we played. So.
Well, okay, you have to hit your lowest low before you know when you're actually like.
Yes.
So I would highly recommend that if anybody wants to actually find happiness, you have to try to create the worst possible environment for yourself. So in that case, there's a fourth reason why you should play SMT If. It's if you want to,
There you go.
Go through like the whole how Stella got her groove back.
You want to feel again.
So Glib, what's one of your resolutions?
My resolution is to make everyone call you rude.
What?
All right. Well, we'll never know. It's redacted.
I was hoping he was gonna say a funny thing like my resolution is 720.
What is it? Hello, what is that?
720p. All right, anyway, well, shut up. All right, two more questions.
Stupid.
Gaspar Velasco asks, other games you like besides SMT? So I guess outside of this entire franchise we're talking about on this podcast.
Oh,
what do you guys play?
Someone else start. I have to formulate mine.
I guess.
Yeah,
I hate games, but right now I'm playing Metal Gear Solid 1 and Kingdom Hearts 1, and Kingdom Hearts 1 is kind of good. It's kind of bad. I mean, it's all right, I guess, but I'm not really feeling it.
Yeah. As for me, I pretty much play everything. Shooters, role playing. The other thing is I don't play sports and rhythm. Those are the things I could not possibly care about. But yeah, I do pretty much everything. I mean, find me on Steam. 50 million games owned. I don't play any of them anymore. But what are you gonna do?
I don't play too many, honestly. I think recently, the past years, I've only played Hollow Knight and replayed Dark Souls 1. And let's see, what else? I like a lot of those small little platformer indie games, honestly. I've played the old Final Fantasies and all that as well. And Fire Emblem, all that popular stuff.
If the question is trying to say like recent games that we like, or that
other
ones
that aren't SMT.
So I play a lot of games, except I'm kind of like Neb, except I play kind of everything. I'll try anything essentially, even really dumb stuff like the meme games like Goat Simulator and whatever, just to see what it's like. What?
I have played Goat Simulator.
Yeah, wouldn't wreck that either. It's around the same level as If.
15 minutes.
It's got the same depth of story as If. Sorry, that was really funny to me.
You just compare Gold Simulator to If. Is that what we're doing now?
Yes, but
that's where we're at right now.
In terms of games that I like, if I was gonna do like a top like 5 or whatever, that I would say I really like, definitely try Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter. It's the best Breath of Fire game, and it reminds me of SMT because it's essentially SMT.
Loophole.
Yeah, I really love rhythm games, so I play a lot of them. My favorite ones are like the DJ Max games or the Taiko Master games. Not very good at any other rhythm games besides like the drummy type ones. So you'll never see me play like what's it called? The guitar one that's not the real one that's not Guitar Hero.
A Guitar Smith?
Yeah, no. It's don't even worry about it. It's just some Japanese game. I tried to play a JoJo song on it and I failed instantly. It's really dumb because people were watching. Don't play games in public too. Pro tip. And then I guess my other favorite game of all time is the arcade game where you throw the basketball into the hoop as much as you can. My high score is 148 points. So if you guys can get higher than 148 points, then good. Because
I don't think I can hit the rim.
Oh no! Wait, what? But it's such a relaxing game. It's basically grinding, but you're in real life.
Wait a second. Is Dragon Quarter the one who turned into a dragon? Or it's like
that's like all of them,
game, right? No,
it's the last of the actual Dragon Quest game. It's the last of the actual Breath of Fire games. The fourth one is the one that's released for the PS1. I think that's the one you're thinking of. They kind of do this thing where every character, they have all the same names for the characters, and the main character is always named, I think, Ryu. And they all turn into dragons because they're all, dragon people. I think Ryu actually just means dragon. So that one is interesting because your society has moved underground, and there's weird like toxicity meter thing on the bottom right, and well, actually no, sorry, redact that. So essentially, everyone moves underground because the world ended. You're rated by your potential for being of value or whatever, and your guy has a ridiculously low like value because he's the protagonist and he's about to have the part where he becomes special. He becomes special, and he can turn into a dragon, and he's the chosen dragon guy. People don't want him around, but he also has this meter. So the dragon transformation thing is good because it helps you beat battles, but it's bad because the more you use it, the more the percentage of the meter goes up. If it goes up to 100%, then you automatically lose no matter what, and you have to start over. But the game does a lot of stuff to encourage you to restart, because every time you restart the game, you get more cutscenes that give you more context to the game. So if you manage to beat the whole game without ever dying and starting all over, then you're not going to get the full story. But if you keep restarting at key points in the story, you'll learn more about the other characters. So then you'll know why this side character is now kind of evil, or why this side character hates you, or why this person's helping you. And so it's a cool mechanic to keep you replaying the game. And also it's fun, which is hard to do for Dragon Quest, Breath of Fire. I don't think they're all very fun, but that one is my favorite. Highly recommend it. And then I just like pretty games, so all my other favorite games are like The Last Guardian, even though that game is not fun either. So
it sounds cool, but I have to see it executed, because that sounds kind of tedious also.
It is tedious. You have to be a very specific person. Like I said, I love grinding, so being forced to replay the game and then actually enjoying it is, I guess, that. And I like a lot of RPGs. Like Dark Cloud 2 is another really good one. Everyone should play. PS2 games in general are probably something that everyone should play, and we should probably play some PS2 games when we do another spoiler cast.
We will see. One final question from Chris Loco. This is a very loco question to end the podcast on. Yes, what are some of your fetishes?
Oh boy.
I feel like someone's asked this before, haven't they?
No, I think they all asked about like the penis size of the protagonist or something.
Yeah, okay, that must be what. I'll start off. Holding hands. I don't want to get too crazy here. I hope this doesn't make it not safe for work.
I guess mine would be being forced to play the slot.
Playing it. You're the BDSM, which stands somehow for playing the sloth dungeon.
Bound to dig.
All right, sloth for the same. All right, that's it, people. It's the end, right?
Yeah. Unless
sure.
you guys have some sort of meme answer to that bad question.
No, I don't.
Pro tip: if you guys want us to answer your questions in a good way, in a thoughtful way, either don't repeat questions that we've already answered, or ask a question that's thought provoking. Because there's a lot of things we know about life, especially because some of us are geriatric, and we can actually tell you what to do so you don't end up like us. I think that's about it for this podcast, SPOILERCAST. Definitely let us know if you liked it and if you felt the same way about If, because I think it's pretty unanimous that we're kind of meh, at least, in regards to If. And I guess you guys can type in the chat maybe what other games you guys want us to cover next, because if this does well, we might do more of that. Again, I'm LaRue, and with me is Spider.
Hi. Bye.
Galibby.
I'm right here, okay.
And Nebular.
You're supposed to say goodbye, Cliff. In case I say goodbye.
I think he's probably...
Man, why?